just hear about the work you are doing, Lord. We pray that you would help us to be attentive and to just be excited about the work you are doing. And I pray that in hearing this, you would move the rest of us to be more eager to follow you in obedience and to just live for your glory. In Jesus' name.
Hello everyone. So I want to tell you Sarah's story to start off. So let me get there. It'll work. So Sarah was 4 years old when her dad started sexually abusing her. Right off the bat, she learned that the world wasn't safe. So they pulled her from that home and put her with her biological mom. And you would think everything goes well until her brother starts doing the same. So by age 9, she had already learned that no men are safe. Nobody can help her. And she starts trying to find things on her own. So she starts dating random guys that are twice her age to try to feel fulfilled. She starts doing a lot of life-controlling issues to just fill the emptiness. She hadn't heard about Christ. She hadn't heard what Christ can do. But when she walked into our doors, right off the bat, she said, "I feel loved. I feel cared for." And so after multiple months of caring for Sarah, sharing the word with her, she actually came to know Christ and now is able to live independently. She is a believer. She is able to work and live and do everything that you would think as a normal person. And also she has learned what a healthy relationship is. She's able to know that God loves her unconditionally and that the world has sin, the world has evil people, but she can overcome by the blood of the Lamb. Amen. And so that is the story of Sarah in this picture. She was the first resident to walk in our doors and the first one to graduate. So that is what we're all about here at Kairos. We're about transformed lives. So a little bit about us. I think most of you kind of know us. My name's Erica, and I am the founder and executive director of Kairos Hope. When I was 18 years old, I decided that I wanted to start a nonprofit, and that's how this became a thing. So I'm a licensed therapist, and then I am working on my doctorate in traumatology. It is a real word, basically just really big expert in trauma. Miranda here is working on her master's in human service counseling. She does all of our transitional care at the home. So she actually stays in contact with girls like Sarah long after their journey so that they have a Christian that is still pouring into their lives. And then she also has done a lot of training in like trust-based interventions, which is just helping build those relationships, working with human trafficking victims. So first off, the history of Kairos. You guys have been a part of this mission since day one, basically. I know Kayla and Sierra remember all the random meetings I was holding in their apartment and all of those type of things. However, this has been something that has been on my heart since middle school. God had placed it on my heart to help people in some sort of residential form. So at that point I was saying orphanage or overseas mission, wasn't quite sure because what middle schooler knows what they're doing with their life. However, when I got into high school, I had experienced some sexual trauma of my own. And when I started looking for resources, there's not a lot of comprehensive resources, and there's definitely not Christian resources out there. They ask you to go here for counseling, go here for this, here for this. And when you're depressed and you're traumatized, you don't have the energy to go to 20 different places and fight for yourself. And so I wanted to create something that someone could give us a call, and we provide absolutely everything for them. So at age 18, I called the IRS, and I'm like, hey, here's my idea. And they're like, you're too young. They didn't want anything to do with an 18-year-old with this big dream. So I contacted a few of my friends who are older, one of them being Ashley Ayers, who you guys know, and was like, hey, if we get 3 social security numbers on this paper, I could become a licensed nonprofit. And of course, they said yes. So right off the bat, we were able to turn that in. The IRS can't say anything once you have 3 of those. In 2018 is when we officially became a nonprofit organization. In 2020, or actually back up to 2019, we start dream building. We're like, okay, let's just think about what a house would look like for this type of organization. So we write out a list, and we find this house on Zillow, and we're like, let's go visit it. Like, just dream building, like, just trying to keep, like, my passion, my dreams alive. So we go and visit, and the realtor's like, so what'd you think? And I was like, I love it. This is our dream home. And he's like, okay, contact me when you're ready. What I didn't tell him is we had $40 in the bank account. Like, that's not something you tell the realtor. And speaking of that, the home is 4,000 square feet with 2.5 acres of land. So this isn't any house close to $40. So I go out on our social media and was like, hey, we found our dream home, but we have $40. Can we fund it? In 1 month, we funded the down payment. God provided a matching grant for us, and then the people just believed in the mission and supported us so that we could do that. It took, though, a year for us to actually purchase the home because in 2020, COVID hit. Nobody wanted to do inspections. Nobody wanted to come do signings. The person who owned the house lived in Florida, and you couldn't really travel during that time. So in 2020, we're like fighting to get this house purchased as 19, 20-year-olds trying to figure out how to buy a house. And during that entire year wait, not one person toured the house. God put it on hold for us and was like, I have provided this place for you. This is what you got. So finally, in 2020, we were able to purchase the house. The house is fully furnished. The only repairs we had to do were cosmetic for the most part. The people before us was an older couple that just liked doing repairs. So it has a water tank that is like humongous and a backup water tank. It has geothermal. It has all these things that nobody would put in a home other than if you were doing commercial use. So God was preparing this house 100 years ago for what we're doing today. So now we are open, we are taking residents, and we have had 5 women walk through our doors and 14 women reach out to us this year alone. So a little bit about our process. So if you don't know a lot about Kairos, we are a Christian recovery home for survivors of sexual trauma. We take in adult women over the age of 18 who has experienced any form of sexual trauma and give them a house, food, counseling, education, legal, medical help, anything they need. That way they're not having to go to multiple resources for that. And in doing that, by providing for their basic needs, we can then share Christ with them. Because they don't care about our God until we show that we care about them and who they are as a person. So our process is kind of broken into 3 sections, and this can apply to really anyone. So when someone runs into a problem, they got to go through this reckoning of, who am I? What is the world about? What is going on? When you run into a problem, you get stuck in your emotions. All those things start welling up, and you have to kind of reset, reconsider who you are as a person. What are my values? What do I stand for? And who is God? That's what's in this first section. If they don't have anything to put their hope, their trust, their values in, it's just all over the place. So we take them back. Here's the Bible. Here's what you can stand on and you know is true. So once they have that solid foundation, then they start to get into this rumble. And that's where you start digging into the deep problems. What is your past experiences? Why do you react when someone raises your voice at you? Why do you shut down immediately? What are these common things that just keep coming up in your life? For our girls, it's usually sexual trauma. We have a lot of domestic violence, sex trafficking, that sort of stuff coming into our doors. But for even individuals who don't have that kind of trauma, we all have experiences in our past that shape who we are now. So helping them dig into those things and find out what does that look like. And then lastly is the revolution. Okay, so we've taught you all these great things. Now what are you going to do with it? Because they're only in our program for 6 to 9 months, and we don't want them to just be successful for 6 to 9 months. We want them to go out and be a light for Christ. We want them to go out and be strong, independent women that can share that with other people. And so that's what the revolution looks like. And that's really Miranda's job of that transitional care, getting them to a place where they can share Christ.
Thanks. So this is our home. It is located outside of Monroe City. If you guys know where the airport is, south of town, we're right next to it. So we get to see all the planes take off, which is kind of fun because they're just little bitty planes, like hobby planes. But when Erica and the original board of directors started purchasing the house and dreaming about the house, they really had 3 things that they wanted to make sure that we had. So the first is being welcoming. Every girl that comes through our door gets a welcome basket. It's on their bed when they come in. It's just got simple things like, Mila has made one, but it's just like fuzzy socks, candy, like a little journal like this. Just things that are very comforting, and this was something that I didn't realize like the impact it made on having a welcoming thing. But we had a human trafficking survivor that came in our doors back in May, and she just like when she saw the basket, she just broke down in tears. She's like, I have not received a present in like I think she'd been trafficked for 14 years, so probably she had not received a present for 14 years. But just like we work really hard to make the home welcoming. Erica has a service dog, service dog Benson, who comes, and then I have an emotional support dog, Boone. That's part of our welcoming of the girls. They love to run around with the dogs, and you can't really see in this picture, but it's a really big yard. So just getting the dogs, and the next thing we do with our home is we try to make it very family oriented. So you can see our kitchen here. We do all meals family style, so 3 meals a day family style. We have a living room where everyone can crowd in and watch a movie on the weekends. And we just want them to know that this is their home for this day that they're there. We want these girls to feel valuable, and we wanted our home to be beautiful. You can't tell them, oh, you're valuable, but then just put them like in a cot in the corner. And we've toured other facilities, like domestic violence shelters, and I can say, like, based off my experiences going to other facilities, we really want them to feel valuable and at home. And Erica and the team that put together the home did a great job with that. Another part of healthy healing is structure. So we want the girls to know that safety is structure. So they have a schedule every day that they follow. They start with breakfast at 7 a.m., do some Bible studies, have counseling with Erica, mentorship with myself. And part of being structured is having consistent staffing. So they know every day Erica's coming in during the days. They know that I come in at 4:30 in the evenings, and then we have a third staff member that does weekends. And just making these girls come out of such a life of chaos, just showing them normality, because most of them don't know what it's like to have a meal with people, and just to live in a place where you're safe, you're protected, there's structure, and it's welcoming. So in the Reckoning, our counseling program is built around these healing principles. The first is that healing's possible. Some of these girls have suffered trauma, and even like in your own life, if you haven't walked through trauma, but maybe you've had financial hardships or you've been sick, like there is that point where you're like, am I ever going to get on the other side of this? So the very first part of us working with them on their healing and just showing them that healing is possible. Next, going back to being valuable. These girls have been used and abused, and just showing them like God put a purpose on their life. Like they wouldn't even exist if God didn't have a purpose for their life. So because God created them, they are valuable, and like that's that. Just getting them to believe that, because many of them don't have much worth coming in. The past does not define you. A lot of them have, just like all of us when we came to Christ, we struggled with sin. And there's a lot of shame and guilt. And so just like showing them that God's mercies are new every morning, or what I tell the girls is God's mercies are new every minute. And what they've done in the past or what's happened to them does not have to define how they move forward. And that kind of leads into you can overcome. So Revelations 12:11 says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so just getting them to believe that, like, because of Christ's work on the cross, like, we can overcome our trauma and our pain and our life-controlling issues. People are there for you. This was probably the coolest thing to see in Sarah's story. So we take the girls to church every week, and they're involved. We go to Center Baptist Church, but there's also other churches in the Monroe City area that kind of just love on these girls. And so when Sarah graduated, she was originally from Southern Missouri. She had 5 family members come, but there's over 50 people there for her graduation. And just seeing kind of the Rawls County community just like surround her and love on her, it was something that she hadn't experienced before, and like that part was really amazing and moving for me. Is just like God built us for community, and getting to show these girls that community, and just that people love them. I think that's it. It was really impactful even in my life. And then last but not least is your future is bright. So we all know Jeremiah 29:11, but just sharing with these girls that they have a future beyond this. So how do we work through these principles? Our services are what support these principles, because we can tell them like, hey, you're valuable, but if we don't show them that, they don't care. Like, words are empty without actions. So the first service, that is the largest part of our program, is the emotional support. We're staffed 24/7. I personally work the evenings, which is a hard, if you've ever struggled with mental health, like evenings are very hard. And so just being there for them, it was truly a blessing to get to work with the girls and continue to work with the girls in the future. Because we celebrated everything from baptisms and 21st birthday parties to like we were also there the hard times, the flashbacks, the nightmares, and just getting to support them that whole time. So if we don't emotionally support them and show them Christ's love, they're not going to heal. Another thing that makes our program unique is life skills and growth. So in our program, the girls, we want them to dream bigger. Like if they came in working at McDonald's, we want, like, McDonald's is great. We need people to work at McDonald's, but what do you want to do with your life? Like God has a calling on your life. Like, what do you want to do? And so giving them the opportunity to learn how to budget, how to make a resume, even lawn work, like this Sarah in this picture, like she'd never driven a golf cart or a lawnmower or a vehicle. And like just her getting to learn how to mow the lawn. Like you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but when you had a traumatic childhood, you don't learn normal things. Like it's a huge deal to learn something like that. Our program, we do allow them to further their education. So some don't have high school diplomas when they come in. We work with a tutor in Monroe City to get them GED training. The HiSET is what it's called now in Missouri. But we've had girls work towards their HiSET degree. We also will allow them to take online university classes. So a lot of treatment centers that are similar to us, they make you put your education on pause. And we don't want the girls to do that. Like we want them to still feel like even though they're going through a time of healing, they can still move forward in their education and their goals. So we have our middle bedroom, it's the green bedroom. It's painted green. It's furnished with desks. So they can go in there and we obviously have Wi-Fi and they can do their online classes and just continue to dream bigger. And like if God's put being a nurse or a teacher on their heart, they can work towards that while they're in our program. And then last, but definitely not least, like the most important thing that we do is the biblical integration. So our girls are in Bible study 2 times a day, and then in church once a week. Our morning Bible study is to teach them how to do Bible time independently. So once they leave, like we're not going to be there holding their hands once they graduate. Like they need to learn how to read their Bible, comprehend it, and how to apply it to their life. So in the morning, we have them like read the passage independently and then come together and discuss. And then in the evenings, we do a lot of sermons or video Bible studies. But just getting both of those and then being involved in local churches, serving at Central Baptist Church, First Baptist Church, Monroe City. And like if you guys ever have an opportunity, we're not far from you as well. But just getting them to fellowship, getting them to be in the Word. And I mean, this is why we do this. Like the healing is great, the life skills is great, but if we don't share the gospel with them, like we've missed the mark.
So the clinical mental health counseling is the biggest draw for our young ladies coming into our program. God has given us the truth of psychology, and all truth is God's truth, and so we want to be able to share that with them. So like I said, I'm a licensed mental health therapist, and one of the big things I do with them is EMDR therapy. basically that helps your right brain talk to your left brain, so you're not all emotional and you're not all logical. People you tend to lean one way or another. You have your people that are just going to cry all the time, and your others that are just going to pretend like nothing happened. So my goal is to get those two working together as God intended them to, so that you can feel emotions, you feel the full range, but also you're logical in those things and can use reasoning with it. We also do group therapy. So when you put 12 girls in a house, you have drama, okay? Like, it is going to happen. And so group therapy is supposed to focus on some of their deeper issues, but a lot of times it's, my roommate's annoying. Like, let's get that out on the table and learn how to talk and communicate through conflict. We don't have to yell at people, we don't have to shut people out, but rather, what does healthy communication look like? This is kind of a safe home for them to try that out. Because at the end of the day, they all know that they're there working on their problems, and they're going to forgive one another because they're going to need forgiven a different day. So that's a big thing with our group therapy, is helping them learn how to interact with others, which I think everybody in the world probably needs at some point in their life. And then we have our mentorship, and that's what Miranda provides. And this was really implemented to help deal with some of those littler things. They would come into therapy with me, which they get 1 hour a week, and complain that they haven't gotten to shave their legs. And I'm like, all right, this isn't what we're here for. So we have mentorship to let them focus on some of those smaller things that are really bothering them in the moment, but also guide them. We also have a lot of behavioral things. I'm sure that's shocking to you guys. But we have girls that are coming straight out of prison, straight off of drugs. And so they don't really know what's expected to live in a house normally. So they're going to be yelling at people. They're going to be not doing their chores. So her mentorship kind of is like, hey, here's the expectations. We want you to reach those. Because if they're not able to keep their house clean when there's 12 people helping them, when they get out, they're going to have roaches again. So it's just helping them learn these life skills. Most of our girls are functioning at about 10 to 12 years old, because when you have trauma, it really stunts your development for a while. So we are really teaching them those teen years. So if you've ever had a teenager, that's who we have in this program. They just say they're 21 or 40 or whatever. And so those are our mental health and mentorship. And then the last thing she talked about was sharing Christ. And so this is Sarah on her baptism day. We were just so thankful to share this with her. So a few things to just kind of help them in their spiritual journey. Every girl receives a Bible when they walk in our doors. And we don't want to just hand them one of the little Gideon Bibles, because they're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to end up in Leviticus, really confused, and and so we give them a women's study Bible. It has some commentary in it. It has guided devotions throughout it that helps them get into the Word, because if they've never been handed a Bible, just starting at the beginning and reading through is really going to confuse them. Secondly, they have Bible study every day. These girls are spending about 6 hours in the Bible every day. That is an extreme amount. I don't know that most Christians can say they have that much time on their hands. But one of our requirements is we want the program that they're in to be able to be repeated. So from 8 to 5, when you guys are at work, they're at work. And that includes reading the Bible, doing their schooling, doing their counseling homework. So that is their work right now. They don't have to work while they're in the program. It's completely free of charge. We never charge them a penny. We never bill their insurance. But we do expect you to work. Work on yourself and work on your relationship with Christ. Also, they attend church weekly, and we don't want them just sitting in the back row pew doing nothing. These girls are meant to serve, and our church has been so great at that. We had a young lady that was so excited that she got to water the plants every week at the church. They probably died since she left because that was her task. But just giving them a purpose in church, because then they're excited to go back the next week. I belong here, I have a purpose. And then lastly is their opportunity to hear the gospel and respond. We had 5 women walk into our doors last year, and every single one of them walked out believing in Christ. And that's what's important. Some of them are still struggling with their issues. Some of them didn't complete our program. You're going to have those. But all of them have heard the gospel and believe in Christ. And so we got to plant that seed. We got to be a part of God's work there. And so then after they leave our program, they have transitional care.
So transitional care is built around the 4 transition tools. You can see them up there. The first is safe housing. So as they graduate, when they get to the graduation point, the review team and Erica, the counselor, kind of start to make a plan for them. So we're looking for them to have safe housing. Like, we don't want them to go back to a bad part of town. We don't want them to go back to where there's drugs or temptations. We don't want them to go back to their trafficker. So first step is safe housing, a place that they can live, make home, be comfortable. And then next is income. You can't pay for that house if you don't have any income. So teaching girls how to build a resume, doing mock interviews with them. Some of them will plant themselves up here in the Hannibal area. So taking them to job interviews and allowing them to get that life experience. Others obviously go back to wherever their home is. And so even working with them, as you guys know, a lot of stuff is virtual now, so they can go ahead and do some interviews and put in applications. Accountability partner. So this is just a really fancy word for a Christian mentor. When they leave the program, we want them to have someone that's going to walk alongside them and share the truth with them. Like, when they're having a hard day, they need to be pointed back to Jesus. And so before they leave the program, we work with them to identify someone, either in a church nearby us or a church where they're going home, whether it's someone they knew in the past or someone that God ordains to put in front of them, to work with them. But this is a huge part of our program, and I believe the success of our graduates is having someone to do life with them. And then church. We want them to identify a church as they graduate that they're going to plant themselves in, be involved in. When Sarah graduated, she stayed local for a while, and she was attending a church in Monroe City, and I like them on Facebook. And I texted her one day and I said, hey, like, this church is having a fellowship breakfast. She said, it's already on my calendar. Like, just getting them plugged into church from day one. Because if you don't have a family, a church family surrounding you, like, you probably will not do so well after you graduate. But yeah, so this is my role, is helping them as they transition out. Our plan is that we keep in communication with them at a minimum of once a month for an entire year. But then we are always open. So if they want to keep in contact with us and keep reaching out to me, that's great. Like, we're never going to turn them away. Our goal is we're their family while they're here, and then we're their family once they leave. So I'm just staying in contact with those girls.
So what is the need in the area? Well, 98% of women experience some form of sexual trauma. That goes all the way from sexual harassment at a workplace up to sex trafficking. In fact, 1 in 4 are experiencing this before they were ever 18. So we have a lot of young women who are walking our doors that experience something when they're 5 or 6, never received the help they're needing, and now they're struggling with drugs, alcohol, self-harm, all of those struggles. And that's what brings them in. They've hit their low because of suicidality, self-harm, whatever that may be, and they're looking for help. In fact, our biggest population has been human trafficking victims. We are part of MOCATE, Missouri Coalition Against Trafficking and Exploitation. So we are an approved place for trafficking victims. So they give us calls quite often of, we have a young lady that we just picked up off the side of the road that has been trafficked for more than half their life typically. Do you have room for them? And we are one of the rare places that do have room right now. There's only about 480 beds in the United States for trafficking victims. And there's 10,500 cases just in 2020. So there's not places for these young women to go. So they're ending up in shelters that just throw them on a cot in the corner with no counseling. They're ending up back with abusive boyfriends, back on the streets. So the thing that we get to do is say, yes, we have room, and it's completely free of charge. We just ask that you come and you follow our rules. Like, that is all. And so that is the need. But this isn't some obscure thing. These aren't people that are way off in a different state. These are people that are sitting next to you in the pews. These are the people that are brushing shoulders with you in the stores. Every young woman we've had has come from Missouri. And this is not just a story out there, but this is mine and Miranda's story.
So I am originally from Green City, Missouri, which is in the Kirksville area. My parents divorced when I was really young. My dad had a alcohol addiction that my mom was just not willing to live with. And so raised by a single mom until I was 10. When I was 10, my mom met a guy, and at first it all started great, which is pretty typical for domestic violence relationships. So everything is great in the beginning, but then it all starts to fall apart. So we lived in a domestic violence situation from when I was 10 till when I was 20. When I was in high school, I hated living at home. Like, it was miserable. And I just remember thinking, like, get to college. You'll be fine. Like, you can get out, just get to college. So I graduated high school and went to Mizzou. And at Mizzou, didn't have any faith at all. Actually, not even a strong faith, no faith at all. And college campuses, pretty similar story for most people that don't have faith when they go to college, especially a big school like Mizzou. I fell into the partying and the promiscuity and all the things that come with when you have unhealed trauma. The world makes, like, you're just trying to fill a hole. And so the world makes all these things look really shiny. Like, if you just do this, then, like, you won't be sad. So that's what I did. And put myself in some negative situations, and then ended up not once but twice also having my own sexual trauma. So not only did I have the domestic violence relationship, not my relationship, but situation I lived in high school, but then I went off to college and experienced sexual trauma. Still continued, graduated college, got a really good job, and had not dealt with any of my trauma. I had not seen a counselor, was not a Christian, but I was just trying to continue to stuff myself with things of the world. So making really good money, still partying a lot, but everything kind of came to a head. When I was 23, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She was sick for 90 days before she passed away. And so when she was sick, we planned the funeral because she's on hospice. Like, it's pretty obvious, like, this was a means to an end. And so as we were planning the funeral, she's like, I asked, like, who do you want to do the ceremony? Because, like, she wasn't really attending a church at the time. She's like, I want this woman named Kathy Ayers to do it. And I don't know if any of you guys know Kathy, but my mom just said, like, she's the strongest Christian I know. Like, that's who's gonna do it. And I was like, well, mom was like, should we, like, send her a Facebook message and ask her? Like, she messaged me and said she'd do anything. I was like, oh no, you spring this on people. Like, you don't just ask them to do your funeral, like, you spring it. So the morning my mom died, I called Kathy, and I just like, hey, my mom wants you to do the funeral. And she's like, oh, say a Bible verse. I said, no, you're going to do it. So that was Kathy's first and last funeral. It went great, but that's just the way that God works. So Kathy came into my life, which I knew Kathy my whole life. We lived in a small town. But she just showed me really good Christian hospitality. And one day she was honest with me. She said, like, you say you're a Christian, like most people in the Midwest. I mean, ask most people in the Midwest, they're Christians. She's like, you say you're a Christian, but this is the life you're living. So, like, are you in or are you out? And that's the day that I say that I got saved. So that was, I don't know, like 5 years ago. But anyways, so I became a Christian. I was like, this is great. Like, all of us, like, when you become a Christian, it's great. But I still had unhealed trauma. And so life still, like, I moved away from some of the obvious sins, but I had trauma inside of me that just was, like, it caused relationships to spiral. It made it hard for me to work, and it all came to a head, and I ended up in Hannibal on suicide watch. And that night, I just felt God saying, like, this is not what I have for you. Like, you have got to stop, you've got to deal with this and move forward. So that was about 2 years ago, and I ended up also going into residential care. So I lived in Nashville for almost a year. It was also a Christian program, And I just got to work through some of these things. But most importantly, I learned who God was. And just like, yes, I was a Christian before I went into the program, but learning like, he did die so we can heal. And like, if you have something small in your life, or if you have really bad trauma, like Jesus died for all of that. Like Galatians 5:1 says that Christ set us free to live a free life. And like the enemy has a plan for our life, but God has a bigger plan for our life. And I know if people wouldn't have poured into me, people wouldn't have shared the gospel with me, people wouldn't have surrounded me and loved me, like I would not be here today. Like I don't know where I would be. And so like that's my motivation, that's my God story, and that's how God led me to Kairos. So like this is what I feel called to do. I feel called to share the gospel, love girls like Christ do, and help them experience their healing journey and learn that God has something bigger for their life. So like Erica said, this is not a statistic. These girls are not coming from big cities. Like we had girls from Poplar Bluff, we had girls from Lebanon, like not big cities. This is everywhere. So I just wanted to share my story with you all today, and how God impacted me, and that's what Eric and I are trying to do with the women at Walk the Light Doors.
Yeah, so to end off, I want you guys to know how you can get involved. So all throughout this, our big goal is that these girls get to have a community. They get to know the people in this area, because most of these girls aren't going back to where they came from because they've been trafficked for years. They don't have a home. They don't have a place to go to. So they're planting local. They're wanting to get involved here. And so we have a few different options. First off is just coming to the house for short-term things. We do Bible study every evening, and we allow men, women, whoever to come and help lead those Bible studies. Right now we use a lot of Right Now Media, and Miranda helps lead various Bible studies, but they get annoyed of hearing from us, okay? Like, they're with us 24/7. They want other people to come in. They want live music. Like, they're tired of YouTube videos for music. And so when a group can come in and just do a Bible study with them, have dinner with them, and just pour into them, they talk about it. They talk all about it. We hear them on their family phone calls like, we had this group come in, they did this, this, and this. Like, the one group brought Hershey's Kisses, made their day, okay? Like, it's the little things for these girls. Another thing is we have a lot of work projects. On November 6th, we have one coming up. Our basement flooded this year. So we have mildewy basement again. So we're needing to clean that up, make some solutions so that that doesn't happen again. So if you want to get your hands dirty and you're more of like, I don't really want to talk to the girls, I want to just like get into the dirt, we have a job for you. We always have those type of jobs because I don't want to do those. Other options, we are now starting what we're calling the Kairos Collective. So this is for women over 18 that want to help relieve our staff. We're doing a trauma and recovery training so that you know how to run our program. You are efficient at that. And when Miranda calls me saying she's sick, we have someone we can call and be like, hey, can you fill in for a few hours? And that gives them somebody to come be with them, and you guys are equipped to know what to do so that the program still runs efficiently. As Miranda says, there is 3 staff members covering 24/7. So you have someone doing days every day, you have someone doing nights every day, and weekends. And so if someone's sick, that means someone else of that 3 is picking up the job. So we're trying to get a group that wants to fill in, even if that's just coming on a random Tuesday so that I can do tax forms, because no one else wants to do the tax forms for me yet. And so that is an option that we're starting. The training is in December. That way, starting in January, we have a group of women that can come fill in when needed. We also have some fundraisers coming up. We have our Festival of Trees. We did this 2 years ago. It's a biannual fundraiser where we ask groups, individuals, and organizations to decorate a tree. We have all types of themes, and then we open up the place, let people walk through and bid on those trees. It's a big fundraiser for us. Kairos never takes government grants so that we can share Christ freely. So every dollar we get is from people who believe in the mission and believe in these young women's healing. So fundraisers like this is what keeps us going and keeps the lights on for these young women. So that starts on Thanksgiving Day and runs for a week. So that is coming up. And then The other thing is giving. Just anytime we have that type of support, it goes a long ways because our staff members have to be able to eat. They have to be able to pay their own bills. And so those who give is a big thing. It only takes 200 people giving 1,000 a year. Like that's less than 80 a month to run this entire organization from start to finish. So we're looking for people who can step up and give in those ways. And lastly is praying. And I don't put this last because it's least important, but because it's most important. And that's what I want to leave on your guys' mind. Like, we need people who are praying for these girls. Because I can counsel them for hours, but if God doesn't come into that room, there's no healing, there's no change. And so we can't share hope with these girls if we don't share Christ with them. So people who are praying for us, this is a tiring job for our staff members. They're up at 2 a.m. when the girl's having a flashback, just screaming her heads off. And so we need prayer for our staff members to be filled with Christ and be able to respond right. And also for our young women, they're leaving everything they know behind, packing their bags and coming into a random house for 6 months. They're terrified. They don't know what to expect. And we're trying to show Christ to them. So praying for these young girls. We have 4 girls in the application process right now to come in January. And every single one of them has experienced jail in their life and have experienced extreme sexual trauma. So these 4 young women that we are working on preparing has a lot of healing to do, but a lot of potential. These stories and these testimonies are changed lives that God is working through. Sarah wasn't just one person that was helped. She shared with her family. She shared with her sister who is in multiple relationships that are unhealthy. She was able to share with her nephews who are 10 and under who Christ is. So we have one girl walk in and she gets to multiply that. So that is what we do, and I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions now because we're such a big program, and I'm sure I skipped over like 90% of your guys' questions. So, yeah.
Your name is very unique, Kairos. Where'd you get that? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so Kairos is actually a Greek word meaning an opportune moment, but it was historically used as the time when God met you where you're at. So that's what we're doing. We're meeting these girls where they're at and giving them hope.
How many girls can you have?
We can have 12 girls at a time. I think our largest group was 3 at once this past year, but we're hoping to up that to about 5 to 6 at a regular time, and then a lot of emergency beds available.
With the limited beds across the country, is one of the reasons that you're not completely full, or is it because the girls struggle with doing what you ask of them? And the reason I'm asking is because I work with a home that's very similar but for different reasons, and we've found that it's difficult for girls to follow some of what we find to be simple rules.
Yeah.
So is that one of the differences, like where all these places that just put them in a cot in a corner are completely full and there's lack of beds, but because your program is different?
Yeah, following rules is hard, especially when you're an adult. Like, people don't like being told what to do, ever. They're not allowed to have electronics while they're at our place, and so pulling their phones from them is a lot of times why I get hang-ups on calls. Also, we don't allow them to smoke on our property, and so we get a lot of hang-ups there. So those are the 2 big things that people are like, nope, that's a no-go for me. And then they just don't know about us a ton yet. We're part of MoCate and we're getting referrals, but young women just don't know about our program yet, and so getting the word out is a big piece of it. But yeah, definitely rules are not favored a lot of times. We also have a long application process, so to say. There is a form, and we ask everything you can imagine, because if we're going to do an individualized care plan for them, we need to know everything we can possibly know. And then we do a virtual interview with them, because if they don't want healing and they don't desire to come and heal, we're not the place for them. We want to have beds available for those who are wanting to do the hard work and do the healing. So when they're just looking for housing, it's not a good fit usually. So that interview lets us interact with them, let them know what we're about, let us know what they're about, and see if it's a good fit. Because these girls don't need to bounce around more. They've already bounced around a ton. So it's easier for us to tell them, hey, this isn't a good fit, but here's some other options, than to bring them in and kick them out. Like, that's not going to help them in their healing journey.
The other thing that I have learned, I don't know, well, I saw it actually in your guys' kitchen, experiencing God. If you've done that Bible study, like, basically what it boils down to is, like, God puts things in front of you, and that's where he's moving. So, like, every girl that comes into our program is prayed over before she gets there. Erica she's the employee that does all the intake, but we have a review team that's got pastors, nurses, teachers, social workers on it that help decide if our program's a good fit. They're also praying over the girls. And so I think, like, the girls that walked in our doors this year are the girls that God put before us this year. When we roll around to January and taking another cohort of women, the 2023 class, like, those will be the girls God puts in front of us for 2023. And so I think that's something that's grown my faith a lot, is just, like, when we started out, like, I thought our population would be different. The girls that we were working with, and I think most people do this, like, we just assume the people we're helping are going to be similar to us. And that is not the population God put before us. So we had, every girl that came in our door had less than $20 in their pocket. Less than $20 to their name. Most of them were in debt. Most of them were on Medicaid or Medicare. Which one is it?
Medicaid.
Yeah, Medicaid. So most of them were on Medicaid. Most of them have been unemployed for a long time. Most of them had addictions in the past. It was not the population that I just assumed that we would get, because I was being selfish and saying, like, oh, they're going to be like me. But that's not what God had for us last year. So I think that's something that really grew my faith, and just, like, as we're talking about open beds, like, God will give you what he gives you the ability to handle. And I think that as we continue to fine-tune our program and continue to have financial support, we will fill beds, because there is a huge need. But, like, at this time, like, these are the people that God put before us. I think that's something really important for us to remember, is, like, here's how he moved, and that's what we're going to join him in. We're not going to try to build this thing that God's not in.
You have 3 staff members?
Yeah, 3 paid staff members.
Do you guys stay at the house or near the house?
No, we shift. So there is a staff bedroom that the overnight staff gets, but they don't live there by any means. It would be really hard to live with 12 traumatized girls 24/7. So I stay till 4. She comes in then, stays until 8 a.m. and then I relieve her then. So everyone kind of has a life outside of it, so that everyone is being fed and filled, rather than just draining my staff repeatedly. So. So I think that's everything. We are staying for lunch, and so if you guys have more questions, feel free to ask those. And then if your church is ever interested in coming doing something with us, we always have mission projects. We always have Bible studies that you guys can kind of help lead, anything like that. The more Christian faces they get to know, the better. Because when they leave, not all of them want to go to Central Baptist. We're not the perfect church. And so if they are like, hey, Sierra was so nice to me, can I go to her church? Then we can put her here, and Sierra gets to be your accountability partner. Letting them get to know our community people and their options that are available is a big thing. So that is all we have for you guys. I think I turn it back over to you guys.